Hi, this is Dr. Sharrie, and I want to lay out some information to clear up some confusion about gluten and wheat production and wheat in general. So in order to do that, I want you to look back to around the 1800s when a new variety of a higher gluten came out of wheat, and it made the breads lighter and fluffier and airier. And then about the end of the 1800s was when wheat production really started to grow. There were new tools that were being used that were created in order to harvest, which made it a lot easier, for the farmers. There were railroads that were being introduced, so transportation of wheat really escalated. And then on top of that, ovens were another tool that was created that was developed further so that when your oven heats, it heats more evenly. So more and more people were using their oven and baking more and using more wheat, and more gluten was being consumed. Then around the 60s and the 70s, the production went up again, or the consumption went up again, primarily because it was a big thing about cholesterol and heart disease. So the big thing was eat more wheat, more grain, because it'll help fight cholesterol and it'll help fight heart disease. Also in the 60s, there was a concern for population growth. So what happened was they wanted a bigger bang for their buck. And so the scientists and farmers, they crossed strains with other countries that were growing wheat, and they developed this wheat that gave 10 times more wheat per acre than had in the past. So production was greater. And then around the 70s or 80s, probably mid to late 70s, we wound up with fast food chains. So, your McDonald's and your Burger Kings and your actually back then it was Carol's before McDonald's and Burger King. But anyways, there were a lot of fast food chains developing and growing, and people were finding a stronger interest in fast food. Grab something on the way home and here's your dinner. So that also increased it. Nowadays, or a few days prior to the harvesting of the wheat crop, what they've learned is if they drench it with Roundup, it yields a bigger crop, and they can also harvest it at an earlier time. So again, the production is greater. In 2012, the United States Department of Agriculture stated that 99% of durum and 97% of spring wheat are treated with herbicides. So it's almost like it's unavoidable. And just as a side note, and I thought this was very interesting, the rise and the fall of wheat consumption coincided with schizophrenia in several other countries. So what would happen is, as the wheat consumption dropped, so did the signs and symptoms of schizophrenia. And when the wheat consumption increased, schizophrenia increased as well. So of course the scientists were fascinated with this and did a study, and come to find out there's something called gliadin, which is a protein found in the wheat, and it basically it acts like an opiate. Not only does it make you eat more, so when you have a slice of bread, you're like, oh, that's really good, I want to eat more, but it also alters other areas. So it is not an allergy, and in fact, what that protein does, that gluten protein does, is there's little villi in your intestines, and those villi, they take in the nutrients and they pass it into the bloodstream, so that these nutrients, from the food, can go to different parts of the body and feed and nourish different parts of the body. So a lot of times what will happen from this gluten is it damages these villi, and it almost like flattens them out. And so these villi are unable to draw in these nutrients. These little enterocytes are being so damaged, and the villi are being damaged, they can't absorb these nutrients. And so a lot of times you'll have something called dysbiosis, which is basically damaged gut flora, which is the little villi. So then you'll start to suffer with malabsorption, neurological disorders, nutritional deficiencies, anemia, nausea, rashes, depression, schizophrenia. A lot of these other issues start to add up. Then if you put something on top of all that, what you're also going to add in is not only are we having a problem in that area, but we're also adding sugar to the diet and possibly alcohol, antibiotics, over-the-counter drugs, prescription drugs, fast food, processed foods, environmental toxins, and now on top of all of this, now we have GMOs, genetically modified organisms that we're eating. So in putting all of this together, it's, you wonder why so many people are having gluten intolerances. And I think a lot of these reasons are the pieces all connected to this big picture. Hope this helps. I hope this clears up a lot because I've had a lot of questions and I'd have to go through it. But if you do have further questions, please don't hesitate to email me or hit my website. The website is www.drsharrie.com. That's DRSHARRIE.com. Or you can email me at drsharrie@gmail.com. That's DRSHARRIE@gmail.com. Thank you.